It's time for today's episode of the UGA Sports Live Podcast, recorded in front of a slightly tipsy studio audience at world-famous Champy's Fried Chicken. We will have the latest on Georgia Bulldogs football, basketball, and recruiting. Watch live and send us your questions on the 11 Alive Sports page on Facebook. Be advised this podcast is off the record and not safe for work. Also, be sure to subscribe to the UGA Sports Live Podcast on iTunes and Google Play.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the UGA Sports Live Podcast for March 2019. First one of March, I do believe. If I get my dates right, it's a little bit colder than usual, so my brain's not functioning as normally as it should, which ain't saying a whole lot. My name is Roddy Nabulsi. I'm joined by world traveler, recruiting expert Jake Roos, who's back from the far reaches of the Far East. And then, of course, Jim Donnan, the former head coach of the University of Georgia, Hall of Famer, analyst extraordinaire, the main reason you folks are tuned in. We're on the 11 Alive Facebook page. Be sure to give them a like. Be sure to follow them on Facebook and Twitter. No better news coverage that you will find in the Atlanta market than with 11 Alive. And I don't say that just because they pay us. We do. They actually. I have seen the other people out there. We've had offers from other people to join them, and I'm not going to leave our 11 Live Facebook folks because they are the best at what they do. Great team at 11 Live covering politics, local events, local news, local sports. You just can't get a better thing. So give them a like if you would. Of course, big shout out to the sponsors of the UGA Sports Live Facebook podcast, Athens Ford, Aaron Overhead Doors, Your Pie, Academia Brewing Company, Cable East, and 365 Game Day. We are live here at Champy's on Baxter Street. If you're in the Athens area or within an hour's drive of Athens, you need to swing by, come by, and join us for lunch. Get the fried chicken, get their tamales, fried green tomatoes, the sausage, cheese, and pickle plate, one of our favorites. Fantastic food here. 4-time winner of Best Fried Chicken in, they say the Athens area, but we know it's got to be the best I've had in the state.
Oh, no question.
It was great to see on the back page of an ad this morning had the best of Athens, and right there on the Best Fried Chicken, Champy's for the 4th straight year. I mean, you're along right up there with so many other best. It's good.
Nobody's taking them down either.
John Wooden of chicken.
We got a lot to talk about. We got Jake back. Jake's been gone for a couple weeks. He went to Singapore and Thailand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Miami.
Oh, yeah. So here's the deal. Jake's gone for, 9 days, 8 days, something like that. He's gone on a fantastic trip. Love that he did this. Thought it was one of the neatest things I've heard anybody doing. Going with your dad and granddad?
Yeah, that was really cool.
That's cool. So he comes back. He's here for 16 minutes. I'm like, Jake, fly to Miami. We have a rivals camp down there. So did you even unpack?
No, I still haven't, to be honest with you. My suitcase is still sitting at the house. I grabbed stuff out of my Thailand bag, put it into another bag, and then took it. So
Jake flew straight to Miami to cover the Rivals camp down there. Rivals is the only recruiting service that actually has its own camps. You know, there are other services out there that will go to the Nike camps or cover the Under Armour camps, which we do as well, but we're the only one that actually host our own camps. We have a combine, which kids can pay just a couple bucks, and they get their height, weight, 40 times all that stuff, the profile done. But then we have the invite-only Rivals. Oh, here we go.
Outstanding.
Now,
a little chicken Philly action, a little quesadilla.
I'm telling y'all, this chicken Philly is the best sandwich in Athens right now.
Bold statement, but true.
It is. Every time when we leave the show, I usually ask for one of these to go. And it's supposed to get me home, or supposed to go home and eat it.
It won't make it.
It will not make it. There's just a bag of fries when we get to the house. And my wife's always like, well, did you eat something? And I'm like, no. I'm just trying to get the cheese sauce off my face, but get a chance. Oh, and what else do we got over there, Jake?
Chicken
we got the quesadilla as well.
We got quesadilla. I can't see.
Check that out. So when you get a chance, swing by. They have fantastic food here, not just the fried chicken, but Rivals camps. We're the only ones that do it, and we have our invitation camps, which means we reach out to the top players in a region and say, hey, come to our camp. We want to see you compete. You know, show us what you can do.
How do you stack up?
How do you compare against the other guys? Sure. And you were down in Miami and had a lot of updates from that. But I'm getting to the fact that while you're down there, you start writing a story about a kid who's not at the camp.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, I should have had a story ready to go the night before when I was landing in Miami because another kid committed. I knew how screwed up is it that they wait while I'm on vacation, nothing happens. I come back, and immediately it's just right back in it.
Yeah.
So
on Friday night, Justin Robinson – was Friday night?
That was Saturday.
Saturday night, Justin Robinson out of Eagles Landing Christian Academy commits to the University of Georgia. Big wide receiver, 6'3", 207 pounds, something like that.
Yep.
No, 6'4", I think.
Yep.
Yeah, 6'4", 207. You're on a plane. I'm out of town. We know that means somebody's going to commit.
Always.
Dash was handling baseball, basketball, and football. So.
Trent said he had been on a date with his wife for the first time in about 6 months.
There we go. So you knew somebody was going to commit, and Justin Robinson does. And give me your thoughts on Justin Robinson.
I really, really like this pickup for Georgia. I think, there was a lot of concern there toward the end of that last cycle about the wide receiver position. Luckily, you finished it off with George Pickens. That offset a lot of the concerns that you had there. But I think Robinson's a huge start to this passing game for the 2020 class. Largely because of his size. I love his size, and I love what a versatile athlete he is. A lot of people, think of him as a wide receiver only, but Notre Dame was recruiting him to play the safety position and really liked him in the defensive backfield. A guy who plays with a lot of versatility, a great frame, going to be a threat in the red zone as well with that height, and I think it was just a huge pickup. It was an inevitability, it seemed. He visited Georgia a ton, receiving a ton of love from the coaches. It wasn't like this was a huge surprise that he ended up with Georgia, but that doesn't offset the fact that this was a big commitment.
A lot of people don't know who he was.
Yeah.
And he's a Rivals 250 guy.
Yeah.
So we say he's one of the top 250 players in the nation. Mm-hmm. But he still doesn't have the, I'll say, national recognition. And I think that's because, didn't he miss a year?
Yeah, I think so. And then, part of it, too, though, I think, is the fact that he plays at Eagles Landing, which is not a school that people primarily think of when you think of Georgia powerhouses. You think of your Bufords and your Romes and, those guys playing in those divisions. Eagles Landing, smaller division, but they put guys out each and every year.
State championship. Yeah, I remember going down there and seeing Isaac Rochelle and guys like that. There's always some fantastic kid coming out of Eagles Landing Christian Academy simply because, they're loaded. And the kids come, they're ready to play. They put kids in the NFL out of that school, so I think it's a big pickup.
You got to add this fact to it that Kirby only had so many places he could go in January and early February in Georgia and Florida to see, recruits, and you can't really visit with them, but you can go to the schools. But one of the places he went was Eagles Landing, so that right there shows you that was a priority for him because he's not going to be able to go just to every kid, 50 or 60 guys. You pick up about 15 or 20 trips, and so that was a very salient point that he went to Eagles Landing. I think that in itself shows you that he was a priority.
Yeah, the staff has definitely gone out of their way early on to make Justin Robinson. Even back when you mentioned his Rivals 250 ranking. That's new. He was a 3-star guy. When the rankings initially came out, and so he was a bit underrated by us. I think kind of out of the gate. But Georgia, man, there was never a doubt with them. I think that they identified him early. I think that they kept the pressure on, and obviously
I don't want to sound shallow, but if you're questioning why Georgia took him, just go look at a picture of this kid. He's
so well built.
He just looks
very similarly built, I think, to Jeremiah Holloman. When he was coming out, and what a physical freak he was. Just a guy who has that. Just the entire package looks like an athlete. He looks like a track star.
He looks like Chris Conley did when Chris Conley was a junior.
Yeah.
Kind of built into that same frame. So that was a big pickup on Saturday night. Sunday morning, I spent the week from Thursday to Sunday in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. A lot of great coverage at UGASports.com. You should check it out.
How was your 40?
In or out of the tamale place?
I bet it slowed down considerably after the first batch.
The second attempt was not as good. The first attempt was pretty fast. We'll talk more about the Combine stuff in a minute. But so I'm getting prepared to do a couple interviews, and we get a note from Trent Smallwood. Yeah. Trent's gone on our board, says, hey, Georgia, after Carson Beck has visited Georgia's made a strong move for him. We read about it on the board. I'm like, oh, okay. Before it happens, he reaches out to us and says, guys, he's going to commit tonight. Wait, what? Wait.
Yeah.
How do you know? No, the kid didn't have an offer until, last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, about a week and a half, 2 weeks at this point. I mean, very surprising. And now, for people who don't know the backstory on Beck, was originally an Alabama commit and actually was at one time a Florida baseball commit. So it's kind of been all over the board with these things. But a guy who's in the Rivals 100, 6'4", about 210 pounds. Go watch the film study Trent Smallwood did on this kid, because I really think that he makes some impressive throws, has some nice touch on his ball, was a state champion last year with Mandarin High School down there in Jacksonville.
And what classification is
the highest classification of Florida football? I believe that's 7.
8A. Football, they win the state championship. I think he threw 5 touchdowns in that game. Of course, again, like you said, 6'4", 214 pounds. Big guy. A week ago, it looked like he was headed to Florida.
Yeah, he said as much. I mean, our Florida side interviewed him, and he said, yeah, I'd say Florida's in the lead right now. It was – and his second commitment was actually – kind of expected. I mean, but they felt that he was supposed to visit Florida this upcoming weekend, and the feeling around Gainesville and from our insiders over there was that they expected him to commit on that visit. Looks like now he won't take that visit, which is a huge boost for Georgia, but still a very surprising pickup for Georgia. I like it for him. I think that you wanted
surprising to everybody but Trent.
Yeah, right.
How do you know?
you were trying to find your quarterback in this class, and look, we put out our 5 deep series last week. We were talking about these 5 options, and they've got some great ones for this class. Guys like Jacoby Criswell or Robbie Ashford. You were sitting there kind of monitoring those names a lot closer, and then all of a sudden this kid picks up an offer, and then boom, boom, boom. It's the dominoes all fall on the weekend. You got to love it. I think also for 2 reasons. First off, he's from Jacksonville, so that just adds a little bit of spice to the pot as well. And then you steal him away from presumably Florida, where he was expected to land.
It's like Coach mentioned a few weeks ago, getting George Pickens. Here was a guy who was headed to Auburn. You're going to have to face him, 3-4 years. Now all of a sudden he's playing for you. It's kind of a big switch. Coach, you know quarterbacks backwards and forwards, and I know Georgia appears in this situation to be sticking with a pocket passer, not a dual threat guy. Because make no mistakes, he's not. He can run if need be, but Carson Beck is not a dual threat guy. He's 6'4", can stand in the pocket, deliver the ball. Very Aaron Murray-esque when I'm watching him, but. 10 times more about quarterbacks than we ever will. Give us your thoughts on this kid.
Well, here's what I would like to add to your policy here, what you've been talking about. The last 3 quarterbacks that Georgia has taken, nobody had any idea that we were going to take them. Stetson Bennett.
True.
Came the night before. Maskins.
Dwan
Mathis.
Yeah, that was
where did he come out of the blue? And now we got this guy. So our people are keeping it close to the vest, and they're working hard, and they know what they want. As good a job as you guys do recruiting and do all that, I don't know how you know all you do, but the idea is it's pretty obvious that Coach Smart and his staff, they know what they want, and they'll pull the trigger when they need to on somebody when something comes up like this. The fact Fields left. We jumped right in there, and we brought in Stetson, and now we got some offers out there, around the country. The guy out in California, I know, is still trying for. But the point is, it's just a very fluid situation, today's recruiting. I mean, this kid a month ago, what happened at Alabama, who knows? What happened at Florida, who knows? He had but if we can get a guy on campus, we're strong.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no question about that. And Kirby's good in the home. He's good in the office, and he's very genuine, and he states the fact. I mean, I think supporting cast has a lot to do with any quarterback coming to Georgia. You look at who we got, the line, the receivers, everybody else. I've always worried a little bit about a guy that's heavy-legged. This kid is big, and he's got a good physical throwing motion. He's very big arm. I like to see him live before I really make any more comments publicly. I mean, that's just the way I feel. I mean, tapes are hard to pick out certain things, but I've had some good comments from people around the country that were really surprised that this happened, what's going on. And I've had some that aren't as good. But the whole point is, if Kirby and Coley feel good about the guy, that's what I want, And I think the subjectivity there that I brought out of the last three guys, as good as you guys are, these guys came out of nowhere and we took them. You know what
I mean, they were kids.
I mean, we knew about Beck that he was recruited, but I'm just saying Georgia's interest and their interest and all compared to what you talk about every kid.
There have been offensive linemen, defensive linemen. I mean, how long did we follow DJ Daniel, the JUCO cornerback? We knew about what he was doing. Then we were shocked, and that he went to South Carolina, but we're like, even then, we're like, we said it on the show. He's committed to South Carolina. That's not where he's signing. We said it here on the show. We knew that wasn't going to happen. It went on and on and on, and sure enough, he's at Georgia now. In other words, there's some of these guys, we start reporting on them. Some of the guys I saw at the Combine, I remember we were kind of chatting up the old days, and I was talking to Mitch Hyatt.
Oh, well, yeah, sure.
Talking to Mitch Hyatt as a true freshman. He's like, yeah, I remember that video we did in the weight room. I never did another video interview again. It was horrible. I mean, he and I both did.
Was he at the draft?
Yeah.
How did he do?
I didn't see him. We don't see the performances. We only get to talk to him at the podiums.
Yeah, how did he test and all? I mean, we saw Jonah Williams and all that.
He tested pretty well. He's night and day from, especially from the answering questions, the media standpoint. The guy's bright. He stood up there and when we talked with the teams, he did really well. But again, that's a guy that we talked to forever. We knew where he was going. But to your point, yes, we told you Stetson Bennett, Georgia was going to get him. We told you Georgia was going to get Dwan Mathis. We told you, we told our readers, 4 hours beforehand on Carson Beck.
Oh, you did? I'm not saying
but again, it's 1 or 2 days, Coach. or in this case, 4 hours, whereas sometimes we're predicting a guy as a junior.
Right.
He's coming to Georgia, and we get updates for a year or two saying it's coming, then it comes, and no one's shocked. When we give you a 4-hour window going, hey, we just put in a prediction on this kid.
That means we're shocked, okay?
Exactly.
Give me a little love on the Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
You called that a week ahead of time, and we're like, I was kind of like.
But the whole point is.
Okay, whatever, Coach.
It's going to be interesting to see. This kid's going to be in the Elite 11. I saw where he's going to be out there. You're going to get a really good evaluation of him, how he compares when he goes out there with the receivers and everything. And we'll that should be an interesting deal there, Elite 11. There's not as many, to me, guys that I know that much about. Do you compared to the last couple of years, we were looking at Fields, what was he going to do out there, and Fromm the year before and things like that, and Eason. But now we got another guy out there in Best, and Beck, excuse me.
This will be year 4 that Georgia's had someone out there between with Eason being the guy to kind of kick that off.
Did Mathis go last year?
I don't think Dwan was out there. I think that he participated in like the before camp, where they cut him down. But I don't think he made it all the way through to the Elite 11. But I'll double check on that.
Now they're going to have it this year again in Frisco, Texas, too, right?
Yeah, they're going to be back at the Star.
It's going to be interesting to see if Trent Dilfer will still be related to it. And
isn't he coaching now?
He's coaching up there in Nashville.
He's like Brentwood,
private school, Livingston.
Livingston, okay. Yeah. I think that, but somebody said I wanted to address this question here. I think it was from our buddy Alvin Todd, if I'm not mistaken. He says, does this recruiting momentum continue in the near future? I think so. I think that this was a big boost. I mean, things had been quiet for Georgia on the commit front.
Had we just seen a story, a national story, should Georgia be worried about his 2020 class?
Yeah, I don't.
No, you did.
I know.
You went and answered that and said, no, they should not.
No, that's good. That's a good point, because the few times I do talk to anybody over there about recruiting, because I know they get tired of it, but – you get somebody, a coach that will call you and ask you if you're recruiting this guy or things like that, or somebody, and time after time I'll ask them about it, and they'll say, this guy's a really good player, but you don't want to go that far to sign a guy that's 50 miles from here. You got 2 or 3 of them. So our national picture is such that if the guy is just not, Swift or Wilson or guys like that, or Webb or Pickens, we just don't go out. Every guy we're getting out of the state's just really strong.
And I'll tell you this too. I won't say who told me this, which site told me this, but we were at the Rivals camp in Miami, and I was actually talking to a guy from another team side, one of our insiders at another site, and he was talking about Carson Beck, and he said, the thing about him is, he said, I'll be real interested to see how things come out of this Georgia visit. He said, Georgia to me is one of those places, it always has been, but even more so now, that you're seeing guys, take a visit on a whim, and all of a sudden skyrockets the stock with them. And he was like, it may not even be a school they've been considering necessarily, but it comes into the picture, and all of a sudden they're a major factor. And I think he saw that with Beck.
Well, look at the grad transfers. You have guys that were expected to go somewhere else. They're committed somewhere else. They spend 1 weekend at Georgia. Georgia puts together such a strong program saying, here's what you're going to do academically. Here's what, they take them into the film room. Here's the guy that you're replacing. Here's what he does. We think you can do this. Here's what you need to get better at. Because a lot of guys say the coaches told me what I needed to fix. And even then, think about it. If you come to Georgia and you're going to get your film broken down, it's basically a consulting meeting. Here's what the Georgia coaches like about me. Here's what they don't. Here's what I can work on. Even if I don't go there, I've got, the Kirby Smart telling me this is what I need to do. This is what I do well, and this is what I need to do better.
What they do, they take the kids' highlight film or any tape that they have, and they'll show a play of theirs that the kid runs, and then they'll show the corresponding play that we have in our offense, So this is the way we would do it with you. You just visualize, and visualization, and we're going to talk about the combine and the pro, but we're going to see the same thing as far as these free agents and pro. Where are you going to invest your future, because this is your next move. This is your next big contract. These guys are moving around, in the pros, and how are they entertained, and what do they – it's not so much what they have to eat and all that. It's just what's on the table there as far as your opportunity. And I really feel like Kirby cutting edge on how he utilizes things. Like, for instance, a lineman. These are the inside things that you need to listen to our show every week for. Like a lineman, he's coming in there and he's talking about, hey, weight training. I'm talking about the kid, weight training, development and all. And here comes Pittman saying, this is what's going to happen to you. If you do this and you gain this and you improve your quickness, you're going to go from maybe – right now you're probably maybe a fifth or sixth round guy. But if you come here and you work in our system and they see you pass pro and not do these RPOs like everybody else, but you run 3 or 4 pass protection schemes where you have to kick back or where you have to do all these things that they do in the pro and block a wide 9 technique and things like that, then you're going to go to the third round if you play in the the first couple of years. But if you keep that up, you got a chance to go from being a very possible draft choice to being in the first or second round playing at Georgia. And they're talking about stuff like that. Now, they don't talk that about everybody, but all of a sudden, we didn't get the kid from up in that went to Virginia Tech that committed to Ohio State. But,
Doug Nestor.
But he came in here, and that was something that really resonated with him, that Georgia was going to get him ready for the pros quicker than anybody. But the problem was, he was just wanting to stay close to home. But, that's something that Kirby does with these defensive backs. Good Lord. We got so many good-looking defensive backs now, and I promise you part of the reason is because of their development. And
that's outside linebackers, too. And that's the point when what you're saying, when the kids go to Georgia, they spend that one visit, and it changes things. We talk about the guys and I know a lot of people say, well, it's a post-visit high. Well, these post-visit highs are turning into commitments, who are turning into signees. So we talked to a kid who just visited, and what we hear all the time is, I could see myself in that system.
Yep.
I know it sounds like a cliche, but you got to think about it. Here's a 17-year-old kid. To him, college is this nebulous, giant next step. You're unsure of it. But you go to Georgia and you're like, I know where I would sleep. I know what my schedule would be. I know who would be working with me academically. I know what my workout schedule would be. I know who I would be working out with. Here's the players. I met them because remember they hang out with the players. Coach always says the best ambassadors for your program are the other players. The players are saying, come here. This is what it's like on a daily basis. And the kids, in other words, all their reservations, they teach you in sales how to get over objections. and George is addressing all the objections, and the kid sees himself in the program, and boom, Justin Robinson, yeah, I'm ready to go. Carson Beck, I'm ready to go.
They're not leaving a lot of room for questions in the minds of these kids. Kids are walking away not saying, I wonder how I'd fit in or what. No, it's clear-cut, dry. And the other thing that we hear from these kids so often is not only I could fit into that system, but these coaches are shooting me straight. They're telling me where I stack up on the board. We did an article with Ethan Garbers, quarterback out of Corona Del Mar. His father was from Marietta, and he said, I know I'm not Georgia's first choice at the quarterback spot. I mean, he was aware of where things stood, and I credit to the kid for taking that approach with it and understanding that. But you got to appreciate that kind of candor that they've got, I think.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I thought you really delivered that very succinctly there about what they did at Georgia. But really, most places do pretty much that.
Oh yeah.
But there's 3 letters that are different here. KPS, Kirby Paul Smart. When he gets them in his office, it's a difference between culture and agriculture.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is very genuine. He's got the resume. He's selling his school. He's selling his family that's here. Everything about this place is red and black, and not many coaches can do that. And I mean, there's a few that have got their own where they went to school, but the big deal there is he's selling that, plus he's selling the success rate of an incredible turnaround in a New York minute. So that to me, you can say what you want to about our assistant coaches, but then they do a tremendous job. But if you can get them to the dance, if you can get them here and you got a good shot with them, he's got an amazing closing rate. I mean, he's got it.
I agree. And I'm not saying that the other schools don't show the kid everything about their program, but when Kirby gets them in the film room and says, here's what you do, here's how we do it, hey, here's a guy that's doing it right now that graduated from here in the NFL. You're showing that offensive lineman, here's what Isaiah Wynn's doing, And the kids are like, wow, he can see the stair steps. But you're right, it's closing at the University of Georgia because Alabama's doing the same thing. Clemson's doing the same thing. But Kirby has the legitimacy. Like you said, a kid, we've had guys leave and they say, well, I don't know if I fit that offense. I'd rather do a little bit more spread. They're not telling the kid, hey, if you commit here, we're going to flip to the spread just to get him in the door because nowadays, in a year he's gone because he'll be like, you lied to me. And he's also, as the coach says, that is the same kid who's hosting another kid next year on campus. And if he feels like he's been lied to, you're going to lose not one kid but 2.
Yep. Exactly.
So the frankness, the success, the proven success is showing up on the recruiting trail, and we're seeing kids commit, and we're going to see more. So
I would say this about anybody in life right here, a little philosophy from the old coach here. But when you go and you're getting ready to make some kind of life-changing move, whether it's going to college or taking a job or switching jobs or whatever it might be, the number one issue to me is who is your boss? Who are you working for? And what's your role going to be and how you're going to be treated? Because it doesn't matter how good you do or everything like that. If you got Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde that you're working for, and no matter, you never know where it's coming from, you go to work, you don't feel very good about what you're doing because you never know what's coming. But as compared to what you just said, that these players are going to sell Kirby. He's tough now. He's hard on them now, I promise you. But he also loves them up, and he's going to do what he says. And, boy, I tell you can't beat those players talking about that. So who your boss is really salient for Kirby Smart here because he knows that these kids are going to believe in him based on Alvin Kamara. All these guys that played and he recruited, everyone's going to tell you the same thing. This guy's going to know your mama, your daddy. He's going to know everything about you, and he's going to take care of you. He's going to go the second mile for you. But when it gets down to it, you're going to have to deliver too.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of kids won't take that challenge here.
No, you're right. And we've also seen that. We've seen some hesitancy. We've seen kids who would like an easier route.
Sure.
And I
get it. That's not a knock on anybody. I think that you've got to
You can't work at UGASports if you want to do it easy.
The kids who, you've got to go where it makes sense for you, where you fit in.
Get it where you fit in. A lot of pressure going to Georgia if you're a local guy because everybody knows everything you do, and you don't make it the first year, they say, what's wrong with you, all that. But, hey, so what else we got here? I think we covered this pretty good. They were going to talk to us about some
well, I want to tell you, while I was up in Indianapolis, I checked in at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. They gave me a Ford EcoSport. I'm used to a big Explorer, and I saw the EcoSport. I'm like, well, let's try it. Is it snowing? And granted, it was snowed 2 of the 4 days I was up there. And I'm like, this little car? I got into it, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, this thing actually fits me. I'm like, so I'm a big guy getting in this car, and it's a smaller, it's a compact SUV, and I'm like, this thing's actually very comfortable. It rode through the snow. It rode through the rain. The big screen on it I needed the Garmin thing to get me around town because I'm going to every food place I can find, of course, because I'm not working. I'm just, getting interviews, sending them to Dash, letting him do all the stuff. Fantastic car. I had not really taken an EcoSport out for a spin yet, but if you want something bigger than a sedan, bigger than the Ford Focus, but not quite as big as an Escape or an Explorer, the EcoSport. Now, right now, I got their March specials, and if you go out to Athens Ford, on the west side of town, if you want a Ford Focus, you can get one for $13,000. This is brand new. That's going to be a 2018.
2018 model, but a brand new car.
Brand new car, 2018 Ford Focus for $13,000.
That's absurd.
$13,250. Or if you're like me and you're like, I don't have $13,000, you can finance it 0% for 60 months for qualified buyers. If you want that 2018 Ford EcoSport that I was driving this past weekend, trust me, that's a fantastic car. I loved it. $17,495. So $500 under $18,000 for a 2018 Ford EcoSport. It's $6,500 off. The Focus is $8,000 off. Now, if you want to go 2019, you want a Ford Escape, you can get one of those for under $19,000, $18,850, or 0% financing for 60 months for qualified buyers. So, in other words, the 2019 Ford Escape, the midsize SUV, under $19,000. It's $6,000 off as well. And, of course, what I'm driving, the 2019 Ford Explorer, $8,000 off. Got to save a lot of money there. And, of course, remember last week, you weren't here. I was telling folks, if you know anything about this week's show, you know that you get a 2018 Ford F-150 for 72 months, 0% financing for qualified buyers. They've added on to that. You can either do the 72 months, 0% financing, or $15,000 off a 2018 Ford F-150.
I just want to point out the fact that you named off 3 vehicles that you could get brand new for under $20,000. Yeah, that's pretty strong.
Yeah. And the other thing you told me
$13,000.
The other thing you told me off the air was the lease deals they have out there. You got some unbelievable lease deals too, right?
Absolutely. The leases they have, and then the service. I mean, if you need service on your vehicle, that's a fantastic place to go. I like that when they get out there, they start asking, kind of like what Kirby does. They say, what do you need? What do you want? It's not, hey, you're here, you're a mark, here's what we're going to sell you. Because some people, a lease works much better. Some people, they say, hey, your car is fine, let us fix it. Others like, hey, you don't need a new, you need a pre-owned. Because you're going to get that lifetime powertrain warranty on anything under 80,000 miles. And, of course, I don't know that they have anything over 80,000 miles. But in other words, they are working with you. You can see yourself in one of theirs. Boy, that's a nice little segue from what we were just talking about. Anyway, get out to Athens Ford. Check them out. They will take great care of you. And the Ford EcoSport took care of me while I was in Indianapolis. While I was up there, I spoke to all of the Georgia guys at the NFL Combine. I thought some guys helped themselves in the upcoming draft. I think some guys hurt themselves in the upcoming draft. I will tell you one thing that I heard twice. One, it was kind of it's tough to summarize, but it was the same sentiment. But I was walking behind two. One guy was, I'm pretty sure, a scout. The other guy, I think, was just in the administration. They're talking. They go to these things all the time. They travel around. And the scout turned to the admin guy and said, "Who is telling all of these juniors to come out?" Now, he wasn't talking about just Georgia guys. He's talking about juniors in general, because there was a ton of them up there, and there's a ton of them who were not invited. I think you were close to like 200 juniors coming out. There's only, 256 spots.
Yeah.
You got all the seniors that have come out, There's 53 guys on each roster who are damned and determined that they're not going to lose their roster spot, even to a guy who's been drafted. It is the most cutthroat business atmosphere in the world, and you got guys leaving a year early. And he was just kind of shaking his head. And I heard this was a conversation I heard elsewhere, but it wasn't as succinct as that. He said, "Who is telling these juniors to come out.
Well, you're going to find different people in the.
It was kind of a.
Yeah, I mean, it's still just the point that there's some guys that aren't going to test well. But I'm just going to give you a question here that I want each one of you to answer. I'll give a chance for. What do you think Jerry Rice ran at the combine? The best receiver ever. Just tell me what his 40 was. Don't look it up.
I'm not going to.
Just give me a quick answer.
What I think.
I just want. Just tell me what he ran.
I would have said 4.6.
That seems about right. 4.6,
4.7. Okay, what did Antonio Brown run? Supposedly the biggest scooter up there.
4.4. 4.3.
4.5.
4.59. And the last one, Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, Fitz probably he couldn't, but maybe 4.6.
4.63. So there's a situation there that just makes you think as an evaluator. Time is one thing, but the films don't lie. And let's look at this Metcalf kid, that just a workout warrior there. I mean, he did everything that you could ever imagine. His unbelievable time in the 40, his leaps, his broad jump, his bench press, everything. Looks like a Greek god. But if you watch the tape on this guy, he's a straight line runner. He's caught 67 passes in 4 years there, or 3 years, whatever he did. So are you going to make him a first-round draft choice based on those tapes? So I'm not just going to this segue. A couple of our guys didn't run as good as they need to. There's no question that Holyfield, I mean, I ran a 4.8 in college, and I mean, that was, before he had the combine, but I was not a very fast guy. But, he didn't have a good start. His technique wasn't good, but he's a guy that's got to do better here when he come in for the deal. There's no question. He's got to do a better job when he comes pro day. And then Nauta caught the ball well, did everything good. But he didn't run an overwhelming, but he still rated the fourth best tight end. They got a kid from Iowa ran a 4.5 40 at tight end. So he's still rated number 4. So I would just say Miko had a great time. He's still going to always be questioned about his hands. I mean, but he's a scooter that people need up there. He can jump around. And, I thought Baker had a good time. I mean, anything under 4.5, the way he – under 4.55, the way he can jam you and play and everything. But I am going to give one shout-out to Jeremy Pruitt here right now. You realize that he brought in not only DeAndre Baker, but he also Jonathan Abram, who was at Mississippi State, that played here for a year, and probably if Kirby had really worked on it, could have kept him, but the kid just didn't want to stay, needed to be recruited. But there's 2 first-round defensive backs in that one class that nobody were really highly recruited, were they? Both of those guys, were they really
No, they were not. I mean, Baker was a 3-star. I think
Baker pointed out how badly we misrated him.
I think Abram was a 2 for most of the time.
Well, but the whole point.
I remember one of our competitors was saying that Abram wasn't even a take for Georgia, and when we reported that he committed, they reported that we were wrong. And I checked with Jeremy the following day, and he's like, I like him more than the 5 stars you guys have ranked on your system.
But here's the deal. Everybody's talking about Mississippi State's defense this year. They got Jonathan Sweat. I mean, they got that guy ran a 4.41 at 6'6". They got the kid that didn't even go there because of his high school problems. They're the great D lineman. What's his name?
Simmons.
Simmons.
Yeah.
And then they got those 2 defensive back. The fastest defensive back there, came from Ole Miss, and then this other guy, Abram. I mean, they had 3 probably first-round draft choices on their defensive team. I mean, so, hey, that Shoop guy did a good job coaching, but hey, I'm just wandering around here. But specifically, though, I think it still remains to be seen whether Elijah made the right move, but you got to look at who we got. If all of a sudden Zamir comes in and is ready to go, he's not going to carry the ball as much this year as he would have.
But if you can't beat out DeAndre Swift and Zamir White, what makes you think you're going to beat out guys on the NFL roster?
Well, you're not going to beat them out. You're going to be up there and you'll get paid, and you're going to be a special teams.
You get paid next year too.
You get paid here?
No, and I said next year he could come back 1 year and go out the following year. If he's good enough to make a roster this year, he's good enough to make it next year. Even if it's a practice squad.
I agree though with what you're saying. look, the time for him to go
based on his tape.
Based on the tape, he was going to have the best tape this year.
I don't think he's getting 1,000 yards next year.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And so I think that you had to go ahead and roll the dice. I get it. I mean, I understand why you pull back on that decision or
and he was the darling of the whole thing. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but every Georgia player was asked by a different media outlet to give them an Elijah Holyfield story. Because a lot of these national writers, they're coming into this group of players, they don't know him like we know him, and so they're looking for a story. And, hey, wait, there's the Vanders kid? So he was asked about it 750 times himself, and then, everybody that was up there, hey, DeAndre Baker, can you give us an Evander Holyfield story? Hey, Lamont Gallagher, give us an Evander Holyfield story. You could tell it was a popular thing. And there's going to be a ton of stories written about him, and I hope he does well. I love the kid, and when I asked him, why did you leave, he said, look, I had a good year. I had running backs have very short shelf lives. That was the same theme that we got from Isaac Nauta, Riley Ridley, and Mecole Hardman. I had a good year. I've proven that I could be here, and that should be enough. I don't have more to prove. I don't know that I could have gotten better coming back. When I'm talking to people up there, someone made this point, and I said it earlier today on Bulldog Roundtable, they have some film, but like with Elijah Holyfield, all the teams kept asking, we don't see a whole lot of catches for you out of the backfield, and that's what we do in the NFL. And he's like, I can do it, but I just don't have a lot of tape because we didn't do that very often.
Well, if we did, we were going to throw it to
Swift. Yeah. So, that's a question mark for him. It was the same with Mecole Hardman. You didn't play wide receiver your first year. Then you played some your second year. Then your third year, you had some big plays. Isaac Nauta, he's inline blocking a whole lot. Didn't get a ton of receptions. I don't know that it would have helped him a whole lot. Riley Ridley pointed out a couple games that he did well, both Alabama games. He shined, but
Ridley's going in the first two rounds.
Yeah, based on potential, he's going to go.
You can't teach a guy to run a route that big, that fluid.
He lights out,
and he can get off press coverage. And
so there's no question he should have gone. But when you look at what happened with DeAndre Baker coming back for his senior year, he could have gone last year. But he comes back and it's him versus Jerry Jeudy. He's winning. Him versus Deebo Samuel, big-time win. He has all these highlight tapes, plays and catches for the first 3 or 4 games. Then after Game 5, there's nothing because no one threw to his side.
Sure.
And that's why he needed to run sub 4.55 because that's the only question mark there is, does he have the speed to go with his toughness and the coverage ability? And I think the first thing I do is commend you for the job you did out there. I was really worried about you getting inundated with groceries.
there was some food
being able to make it over there, but you did that. I thought that was great the way you had those insights talking to those kids because maybe their guard's down a little bit compared to when they're doing interviews here. We had
a good thing with Jonathan Ledbetter said, look, about halfway through the season, Kirby came to us and said we got to affect the quarterback. Teams have figured out, our run defense. They're running RPOs against us. I need you guys to affect the quarterback more. Let's get some sacks. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. So there were little tidbits, some of the stuff that DeAndre Baker told us, some of the stuff that Lamont did. Some of these guys did a great job in the interview rooms. Everyone focuses on the 40s, but the coaches aren't focused on that the whole time. They put Lamont Gallagher up on the board and said, here's the defense.
They like that.
Yeah, what can you do?
What's your
they did Lamont the same way.
What's your football acumen?
Exactly. Put Ledbetter up there. Where are you at here? Show me your tape. And those guys with, again, the extra year were able to break down the plays and show what their responsibilities was, what their strength would be on that play, what their weakness would be on that play, what their assignment was, and that helped them a lot.
I'll tell you too, though, they do some stupid shit up there. The staring contest. Did you hear about that? They had the one guy he had to engage in a staring contest with somebody. They asked one guy if he had both of his testicles.
Right.
Somebody said the combine is the Super Bowl of stupid questions.
Yeah. But how about
and you should ask the media was just as bad.
How about if you're a Florida coach and you polite? Did you hear what he said? They asked him, what about studying other teams' players? What do you look for? He said, well, I don't ever look at any tape of the other team.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I mean, if he's telling the truth there, I mean, I don't believe that. You got to believe they do more than that.
Yeah, they asked Isaac Nada, what's your spirit animal?
I really love that response. What did he say, a lion at first?
He said lion, but then he says, I wish I'd said golden retriever. Just a good old boy who likes the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, yeah, it's one of those, I wish I'd said X when they asked me. And you're not expecting that. But, again, he accounted for himself well. He knows football backwards and forwards, so he's ready for it. And
while we're doing this lap, I can't wait to tell you this joke because we only got about 12 or 14 minutes. But, a lot of people here that listen and watch our show have a farming background, which is great. And there's this guy that's got this farm about 8 miles out of town. He doesn't go into town much. And so this man comes out there, and this little boy's 10 years old, and he comes to the door, and he says, how you doing, Charlie? He said, I'm doing good. He said, I'd like to see your dad. He said, well, my dad's not here. He said, he's gone into town, go get some supplies. And he said, well, okay, well, how about your mom? I'd like to talk to your mom. He said, my mom's not here either. She went with my dad. Said they went into town to get some supplies. And says, well, how about your brother Harold? I'd like to see him. Said, well, Harold's not here either. Said he went in to get some supplies too. Said, but I tell you what, Mr. Johnson said, I'll be glad. My dad's got a lot of stuff in the garage, a lot of tools and stuff like that. You want to borrow something? We're a very friendly family. We'll do anything we can to help you. And he said, no, he said, I don't need it. He said, I just need to see your to ask your dad what he would about Charlie getting my youngest daughter pregnant. And he said, well, I'm not sure about that. He said he charges $500 for the bull and $500 for the hog. I'm not sure what he charged you for Charlie. I'm not sure what he charged you for Charlie. For Harold, excuse me.
Nice.
You waited all week to drop that one.
I thought it was good, though. I mean,
that was a good one. Well, I want to mention the fact that we get a chance swing out by Academia Brewing Company out on the west side of Athens. If you go by Athens Ford, you're pretty close to Academia Brewing Company. Like I said, I went out there and had my birthday dinner not too long ago. You missed it. I had a Scotch egg.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you got to love anywhere that will even, to step up to the plate to serve us, guys.
I know it was phenomenal. Then we had the buffalo chicken mac and cheese.
Oh.
Yeah, I knew that would catch you.
It took you a second there.
Watch a head whip around.
Yeah.
Wait, buffalo chicken mac and cheese. Yeah. Of course, I had the medium rare prime rib. And it might have been I don't know about that big. I mean, it was like the big brontosaurus, steak. You saw the Flintstones. Yeah, they brought out one of those. Had to undo the belt for that one. And, of course, the boy had the giant pork chop, bone-in. New chef out there, by the way, so we get a chance. And you'll notice while you were gone, they are now canning their beer. You can actually buy the cans.
So thankful for that, finally. Yeah. It was you come out of the gate and you get the draft operation up and running. You establish the brand that way, but man, it's great to be able to go out and pick up the 6 or 4-pack.
When I left, they said, "Hey, why don't you grab one of those? Put it on the show." I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, "What about? It's my birthday." And they're like, "Okay, you can have one." So I got to the.
Why don't I grab one and take it to my house?
Yeah. So that 4-pack of Hunker Down Brown disappeared pretty quickly, and we have the Hoprodyte, which if you're a big hophead, that's one of the best things you can do. We're knocking back right now. I got the Skull. You have the IQ IPA. IQ IPA is also in the cans out there, so you can pick that up too.
I'll tell you, man, in all my travels, probably the biggest thing I missed was beer. All that beer in Asia is very, very weak. It's very, I don't know. It's like it's all like Bud Light for the most part. It's not, very flavorless. Very, it's just cold.
Let's not bang on Bud Light. We might need them as a sponsor too.
What'd you hit? The sake?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying. I drank a dozen Tiger beers and be like, nothing.
So, get a chance. Also, I want to mention before we get into the questions there, your pie. It is now March. It's March 5th. So
9 days.
9 days until 3/14 Pie Day, March 14th. Go into any Your Pie. There are 60 locations now, 50 more coming. Wow. Your Pie on March 14th. You can get a Your Pie pizza, $3.14. Get there early because the lines will be long. It's you can't beat it. Take your friends and family. It's one per person. You can't walk in and ask for 6 of them. One per person, $3.14. You can't beat that deal. Your pie day is coming.
All right, yeah, we got a bunch of questions.
We got a question. He wanted to know about the Ledbetter story.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
All right, so speaking of, coaching some of these guys being a little relaxed, Jonathan Ledbetter told me a story, when I was asking about some of his best games, some of his best memories. He goes, his favorite memory was the SEC championship game against Auburn. Earlier in the year, Georgia had lost in a bad way at Auburn. They get the rematch in the SEC championship game. They drill Auburn. And he says in his mama's house, hanging up on the wall is a picture of him, and to use his words, leveling Jarrett Stidham. And it was. And so, of course, at the Reese's Senior Bowl, he sees Jarrett. And Jarrett's like, hey, yeah, man, you got me. Just don't ever hit me like that again, and we'll be good. So they had a kind of a recap of that, and Jarrett was just basically talking about how Ledbetter laid him out. And Ledbetter also was showing – he was basically telling him how he could play stand-up, play his hand on the ground. He can move all the way to two-eye technique, up and down. He was – if anybody drafts him, which I think they should, they are going to get a very versatile defensive lineman.
Yeah, and I think that he's a guy who, regardless of whether he gets drafted or not, will make a squad. I think he'll find his way.
He's been trained.
For sure.
How about Quinnen Williams, 4'8", 40?
Jeez.
Not bad.
Quinnen's a monster.
Not bad.
I'm glad he left early.
We didn't even last spring. Nobody even heard of him.
Hey, Rashawn Gary as well really tore it up at his size. What a freak! A big year for the freaks. I think a lot.
Oh, Brian Burns was moving.
Yeah, no kidding. Remember how bad Georgia wanted him too.
I remember how close he came to coming to Georgia.
He was very close. Absolutely. We got a lot of questions rolling in. A lot of people want to talk about recruiting, especially after this big weekend the Bulldogs just had. Number of 5-stars on campus. Michael Sherman, Justin Flo was here. 5-star tight end Darnell Washington. It was just a loaded-up weekend for the Bulldogs. Jarvis Hanna says, do you think we can get Darnell Washington and Eric Gilbert in the 2020 class? Both are 5-star tight ends / athletes. I have a hard time seeing you getting both of those guys. I do think your chances with Eric Gilbert are very, very strong. They have been for some
Eric
time.
Or Arik?
I've heard it both ways, and I normally don't give a shout to our competitors here, but Jeff Sentell did ask him that question, and he said it is Arik. He said, but honestly, everybody just calls me Eric, so I've taken up Eric too. I say Eric.
Because when I spoke to him, I asked him, and he said Eric. So.
Yeah, so he's the kid is but a special talent. I think you definitely get him in this class. Washington, that's going to be a tough pull. I'm not ruling it out. I think that he had a good visit. I had
pretty
a chance
good. The guy come here on an unofficial visit
from Las Vegas
visit or not?
No, that was an unofficial. But from Las Vegas, all the way out there, I spoke to a coach who came with him. Said it was a great visit.
Yeah, we got a couple casinos here now, don't we?
Jarvis Hanna says, can we get a 5-star number 1 rated linebacker Justin Flo, number 3 player in the nation this year? Flo, if you get a chance, go check out his tape. That kid hits like a ton of bricks. I will say we haven't spoken to him since the visit, but prior to the visit, about 2 weeks prior, he was at Rivals Camp Los Angeles and had some very complimentary things to say about Georgia. So not a surprise to see him make his way to campus. Again, pulling a guy all the way across the country, that's always going to be a challenge. But that's a kid who you got to assume probably paying attention to the fact that Georgia recently had a Butkus Award winner. Let's see. We've got Chuck Ward says, how about Todd Hartley? Todd Hartley coming out the gate swinging, man. Huge part of the Carson Beck commitment. Was very familiar with that young man, and then obviously doing some great work with Gilbert as well as Washington and getting those guys to visit. So
we said he could recruit. He's a recruiting monster.
The guy can recruit. Mark Thompson here with a good question, I think, for all of us. He says, this season with their new coaching staff, do you think Georgia Tech will be a big thorn, little thorn, or a dandelion? I appreciated his phrasing.
I'd say a little thorn, and the reason would be because there's so many players in the state that we can't take that I think they'll make some inroads just because of their system. The fact that they're not running a 3-back system, you use that against them in recruiting, not only the offensive players but the defensive players. You'd say, hey, why do you want to go there? You never get trained rushing the passer. You never see the ball in the air and all that. And I think Collins has had a history of being a really good recruiter. When you look at him at Mississippi State, at Florida, at Georgia Tech when he was helping Coach O'Leary there. They had a really good recruiting class that year. So I think that and the fact that he's got the ACC is there for the taking after Clemson.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I think it's not going to be a big thorn right now, but I mean, I think it's their quality recruiting. They got that 4-star running back this year from Rome, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Jamias Griffin. Jamias Griffin.
I think you just look at who you always respect all teams, fear none.
I think
you got to respect just because they're Tech. You just can't say, hey, we're going to beat them on every kid. I mean, you look at prior to Johnson, they got the big receiver, that did so well for Detroit. I mean, they can get players.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to be, in my estimation, I agree with you, little thorn this year, but a growing thorn. I think that Jeff Collins is going to do a really good job there. He's rebranded them very well, and I think that that's going to pay off for them. I don't know that it's necessarily – I mean, look, the gap in talent is huge now.
That's the thing.
So it's going to take time for him to get guys in position.
You're right. Next year is a dandelion, but they will grow. They'll get better. There will some excitement will be built up there, and more kids will see that as a possibility. A lot of kids immediately just go, nope, not going there whatsoever, and now it becomes a real option. The state is loaded. What is it, about 180 D1 players? Georgia can only take 10 to 12 of them because they're going to take 10 or 12 more from outside the state. So, yeah, they're going to get better. But next year in that transition, I'm not worried about it.
It's just like hard to go throw. I look for them above all teams between now and the summer. I would say they're a perfect landing spot for a grad transfer quarterback.
That's a good idea.
Absolutely.
Just before you get into the next question, I want to point out that somebody who's also not scared of the competition, our friends at Aaron Overhead Doors. I saw Ryan Lucia. He's not scared to point out how good his company is. Again, he's a customer service guy. He will put up his technicians and his customer service against anybody in the industry, especially people who have, a lot of money and not a lot of quality products. He's going up against some big-time competitors out there, but no one will outwork his team at Aaron Overhead Doors. No one will give you better service. No one will do a better follow-up. It's the reason if you go to AaronOverheadDoors.com and you look at the top and it has Better Business Bureau, Google, Angie's List, all that stuff, 5-star rating, 5-star rating, 5-star rating, 5-star ratings. Get a chance. They have free financing on your doors. They also have a free consultation. They'll come out to your house and talk to you for free. And it will be somebody from Aaron Overhead Doors, not a contractor. I got a contractor supposed to come by my house to put in a new stove. They got to come out and measure it. I have no idea who this guy is. He doesn't work for the company I bought it from. I'm hoping he's a good person, or she, for all I know. Again, it's not a contract. I just wish Aaron Overhead Doors would put in a new range. Our range is kind of rusted through and about to blow up the house, so we had to get a new one kind of post-haste. But, again, it's, you don't know who this person is. You don't know if coming to murder us in our beds, but just say this is we'll let them in, but that's you're not going to have that problem with Aaron Overhead Doors.
Let's see. Chuck Ward with a funny comment here. He says Jeff Collins will do wonder for the capri pant market in Atlanta. He does love to cuff those jeans up. But I will say this.
No socks, too.
Props to I'm a no sock man myself, so I get that. Props to Jeff Collins, though, for weaponizing Waffle House. That was a good
props to Grady Jarrett.
Yeah.
As long as if we're going to talk about Rockdale County High School alums in Jeff Collins, let's point out my boy Grady Jarrett with the franchise tag.
And they're still working on the extension. I hope they get that one done.
That's my guy.
Jeff Dyer says, Jake, gun to your head, which I always love anything that starts like that. What running backs do we land in this class? I'm going to go the guy I feel the most confident about at this point is Marshawn Lloyd, I think, out of DeMatha High School. 5-star in this class, a top 20 player in the nation, a kid that has visited several times, really familiar with Georgia's tradition as well in terms of what they've done lately at the running back position. position and historically as well. So Marshawn Lloyd, the guy that I've got my money on right now. Behind him, a bit of a toss-up. I'm going to go with probably Kendall Milton as of today. I don't know that for sure. You know, I think that if they turn the heat up on a guy like DeMarcus Bowman, you could really see him start to trend back this way. You know, he's trending a little Florida right now, but that kid's always
in Clemson.
Yes, yeah, that's true as well. But I do think that you know, Milton, another West Coast product, a guy who's out there on the that end of the country, but I think is a very intriguing option for Georgia just because of his physical build. You're talking about a kid 6'3", 220, got that Derrick Henry kind of size to him, and I think that would be a very unique.
Play defensive end.
I think that would be a very unique.
Here's a point too about the West Coast that we need to bring up. USC is on the bubble on where they're going to keep their coach. There's no question about it. And UCLA ended up with the 45th best recruiting class in the country last year. I mean, in the 40s, and they're not trending up, even though they got a good coach. So you'd think that everybody's going to be hitting California from the standpoint of, look, you know, you want to make a national pool. You look at their inability to. You know, the Pac-12 just hadn't done very well as far as playing these other teams around the country. Washington lost to Auburn last year in a, you know, non-conference game, and they lost in the bowl game to Ohio State. So there's going to be a chance out in California to maybe get some of these guys.
It's ripe for the picking. There's no doubt about it. And you saw a little bit of that last year, even with a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau, you know, one of the premier players in the state of California, spurns all the in-state schools, goes to Oregon. Yeah, it's a real good time to be recruiting.
And that one kid that went to USC transferred to Texas.
Yeah, Brew McCoy. Yeah. That's right. Absolutely. All right, last thing here, I just wanted to give a shout-out to this guy because he said, Jarvis Hanna says, "What's up, Jake? I ran into you at Kroger on Alps Road a while back, and I helped you out at the meat counter. You certainly did, Jarvis. That was awesome." And he said, "Yeah, you're the guy from the podcast." I said, "Yeah, we do the podcast." So, Jarvis, come out here. Like I said, we talked about that day. Come hang with us for a week, man. Yeah.
He never calls me out. I go in there all the time. He doesn't know me from a jar of Vicks Vapor. Hey, that's good, though. That's pretty good. You guys hitting you up from the – that's good.
It's good to be home. That's what I know, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm not believing that.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting piece of news. By the way, make sure to get over to UGAsports.com. Check out, we've got Marcus Dumerville. We spoke with him over the weekend in Miami. He's a 6'6", 300-pound offensive tackle.
Is any kid Elvis Dumerville?
Well, you know, I asked that same question. Apparently, that is a very common Haitian last name.
Okay.
Which I didn't know, but I was informed of during the camp.
How did you not know that?
Elvis Dumerville.
I don't know any Haitians.
He had the longest arms of any guy I've ever seen.
Yeah.
To be as short as he is, and that's why he made it so big in the pros.
I always assume. I just assumed that the kid was.
He came to Louisville when he was like 16 or something.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. But get over there. Marcus Dumerville spoke very highly of Georgia. We also did our 5 deep yesterday on the offensive line. Some great options for the Bulldogs when it comes to that position group. You know Sam Pittman's going to be in there.
Give me those first two.
The first two?
To go along with Broderick Jones?
Yeah, to go along with Broderick Jones. The first two we had on the list was Justin Rogers out of Oak Park, Michigan, 5-star guy that, I mean, they are fighting over where they want to put him. It is, you know, you hear that sometimes, but he says Trey Scott and Sam Pittman both want him on their side of the ball, and even Kirby Smart is saying, I don't know, man. Let's just get you here and figure it out.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, so
Kirby.
Yeah.
Kirby telling him to play quarterback, right? I'm going to tell you this.
We'll hike you the ball.
About that right there, about a guy playing both ways or something. We had a guy come in here to walk on one time. His dad was talking to me. This kid was a good-looking kid now, but he was offensive lineman. And, you know, we were struggling for any guys like that. And this is as true as it can be. And he said, "Coach, I'm really glad my son's going to be playing for you, but, you know, I just want to tell you, I've been out in the backyard and we've been throwing the ball, and I really think my boy could play quarterback." And I didn't go down on one knee, but I took a cough and went to the side. I mean, this is a college. This is in college here, right there over in the Bud Smear.
Ed Harding points out, I do know some Haitians. He says Sonny Michel is Haitian. That is true. He says Louis Sign is Haitian as well, which I'll be honest with you, I did not know that.
Louis Sign is, right.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out to me, Ed. I appreciate it.
The other guy on that second list was
Harry
Tate
Belafonte, too.
Yeah. What?
The second guy on the list was Tate.
Yes, Tate Ratledge out of the Darlington School in Rome.
Yeah, there's a lot at UGAsports.com. You need to go check it out. It's 27 cents a day. That's the only reason we do the show is to do ads about that. We never do ads about it when we should. Speaking of which, big shout out to Cable East for sponsoring this podcast, even though it does them absolutely no good. So,
They're just good dudes.
Thanks to the guys out of Cable East for sponsoring our show. We got a lot more questions, but we don't have enough time. We're already running a little over. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll see if there's any more commits. We'll have a lot more to talk about. We didn't even get to all the stuff that happened at the Combine. There's a lot more to go over.
Spring break here next week.
Spring break.
And then spring ball upon us.
Exactly. So, we're just a few, the 19th, I think it's the first day of practice. So 2 weeks away from today.
Hard to believe.
We'll have spring practice. South Carolina's already practicing.
Oh, I know. A lot of schools are.
Well, there's a lot of them. I will give you one little tidbit that I heard about Dwan.
Dwan Mathis. Mm-hmm.
FAST.
Really?
I believe
Smoke.
it. Our guys out of the Midwest said, look, this is a kid who's a developmental prospect at the quarterback position. He said, I think he can really thrive there. He said, but I'll tell you what, if it doesn't work out there, he's going to have a future playing wide receiver.
Well, I don't know about that. I got to watch him throw, but anybody can run like they say he's running on these GPS. I can't tell you the exact time, but it was a lot faster than most of the guys we got here.
Nice. Wow.
See, he always drops a little nugget in the show.
Mate, that's why you got to listen to the whole thing.
Yep. Be sure to check us out on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean. Heck, we might even set it up on something else.
We need to get on Spotify.
I don't even know how.
Me either.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. Anyway, until next week, we'll talk to you later. Take care.
That's it for this episode of the UGA Sports Live Podcast. Tune in next week for more Georgia Bulldogs news and notes from Athens.